Imagine a child standing before you with a quiet confidence, looking you in the eye and saying, "I was chosen." Those words carry a weight far beyond their innocence. They speak of destiny, of a calling written in the heavens before this child ever took breath. But then, in a twist that shakes the soul, that same child dies mysteriously, without explanation, without warning. What happened to this chosen life? Why would someone marked by God face such a sudden and unexplained end? These are questions that stir deep in our hearts, challenging everything we think we know about purpose, protection, and divine plans. Tonight we will explore this difficult and mysterious story, not just to seek answers, but to understand the spiritual realities behind such tragedies. We will look beyond the surface to see the unseen battles raging around those who are chosen and what it truly means to carry God's calling. This message is for anyone who has felt confusion, grief, or fear when faced with loss or the mystery of why bad things happen to those who seem destined for greatness. Listen closely, for this is a call to awaken our faith, to rise up in prayer, and to stand firm in hope. The story of the chosen child who died mysteriously is not just a tragedy. It is a reminder of the spiritual war we are all a part of, and the hope that triumphs even in the darkest moments. ChatGPT said, "To be chosen is not just a casual phrase or a simple label. It carries with it a profound spiritual significance that touches the very core of a child's existence." When a child says, "I was chosen," they are declaring something far greater than themselves. They are acknowledging a divine appointment, a sacred calling placed upon their life by the hand of God. This calling is not given lightly nor without purpose. It means that before they were born, before their first breath, God set them apart for a special mission, a unique destiny that only they can fulfill. This truth is both beautiful and weighty. It shapes how we see that child and how that child must begin to see themselves. The idea of being chosen flows from Scripture and is woven throughout the fabric of God's relationship with humanity. It is seen in the stories of those called out to change nations, those set apart to deliver messages of hope, and those destined to walk in the fullness of God's plan despite overwhelming odds. Being chosen means being marked by God's favor and His purpose, but it also means carrying a responsibility. The chosen are often those who will face trials because they stand for something greater than themselves. Their lives are not just about personal success or comfort, they are about impact, about bearing witness to a truth that can transform hearts and communities. When a child understands they are chosen, it changes their identity. It gives them a sense of worth beyond the approval of peers or the standards of the world. They come to realize that their value is rooted in something eternal, not temporary. This realization can bring tremendous strength, but can also attract great opposition. The enemy knows that the chosen carry light into darkness, and darkness always resists. So being chosen means standing in the middle of a spiritual battlefield where unseen forces seek to undermine and destroy. But this chosen status is not a burden meant to crush. It is a mantle of honor meant to empower. It is a divine commission to live differently, to shine more brightly, and to walk in courage. The child who embraces this truth carries within them a source of strength that surpasses human limitations. They are reminded that God, who called them, is faithful and will equip them for every challenge. Parents, leaders, and communities have a sacred duty to nurture this understanding in children, to affirm that they are indeed chosen, to help them see beyond the temporary struggles, and to stand with them in prayer and protection. Because when a child fully embraces that they are chosen, they begin to walk in freedom, confidence, and purpose that nothing in this world can take away. In the end, being chosen is not about avoiding hardship. It is about fulfilling destiny. It is about living with a clarity of purpose that defies circumstance and points the world towards something greater. It is a divine invitation to participate in the unfolding story of God's kingdom, starting from a very young age. And when a child declares, "I was chosen," they are announcing that their life matters in the grandest way possible. The reality of spiritual warfare is not a distant story from ancient times. It is very much alive today, especially for those who are chosen by God. When a child is called chosen, it means they are stepping into a life where the invisible forces of darkness will not stand idle. The enemy is aware of the power that such a child holds, and so the battles they face are often fierce and relentless. This warfare is not always visible to the human eye. It happens in the spirit realm, where the stakes are eternal and the consequences ripple far beyond what we can see. Spiritual warfare means that the chosen child is under constant attack from forces that seek to confuse, discourage, and destroy their purpose. These forces use every weapon available: fear, lies, sickness, isolation, and even death. The enemy's goal is clear: to silence the voice of God's chosen, to prevent them from fulfilling the destiny that was decreed before they were born. It is a war fought on many fronts, often leaving families and communities unaware of the true battle happening behind the scenes. Because children are especially vulnerable, these spiritual battles can manifest in mysterious ways. Sometimes it's in the form of sudden illness or accidents, other times through emotional turmoil and confusion. The enemy targets the mind, the heart, and the body to weaken the child's connection to God's purpose. This is why many chosen children may struggle with things that seem beyond explanation. The enemy wants to distract them from their calling, make them doubt their identity, or even extinguish their light altogether. Yet this warfare is not a sign of defeat, but a confirmation of the child's significance. The more intense the attack, the greater the calling. Just as in ancient times, when prophets and leaders faced opposition, chosen children today are stepping into roles that threaten the darkness. The spiritual battle is a sign that God is at work, that His purposes are unfolding, and that the enemy is desperate to stop it. For those who understand this reality, the call is to stand firm, not in fear, but in faith. To recognize that the battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. This means equipping the child with prayer, spiritual protection, and the knowledge that they are never alone. It means surrounding them with believers who can fight on their behalf in the unseen realm, breaking chains and declaring victory. Spiritual warfare reminds us that the chosen child is part of a much larger story, a story of redemption, victory, and hope. It calls for vigilance, courage, and unwavering belief that no darkness can overcome the light destined to shine through these precious lives. Understanding this battle is the first step to walking boldly into the purpose God has set before each chosen child. When we hear about mysterious deaths, especially of those who have declared themselves chosen, our hearts are gripped with sorrow and confusion. These deaths often come suddenly, without clear explanation, leaving families and communities searching for answers that may never fully come. Yet, behind these tragic events lies a deeper spiritual reality that cannot be ignored. The enemy, knowing the power and destiny vested in chosen children, sometimes moves in ways that are hidden from human understanding to try and silence or derail God's plan. These mysterious deaths are not random or meaningless. They are part of a spiritual strategy aimed at stopping the flow of God's purpose through these young lives. The enemy's tactics are often subtle and deceptive. Sometimes he uses illness, accidents, or unexplained circumstances to remove those who pose a threat to his kingdom. These deaths can shake the faith of those left behind, causing doubt and despair. They create questions about God's justice and goodness. Why would a chosen child, marked for great things, be taken away so soon? This is a question that challenges believers deeply, but the answer lies in understanding the larger spiritual battle at play. While we may not always grasp the reasons fully, it is crucial to remember that God's plan is never thwarted by death. The chosen child who dies mysteriously is not forgotten or lost. Their life, though brief, has a lasting impact that transcends time. Sometimes their death becomes a powerful testimony that awakens faith, stirs the church, and calls the community to action. It reminds us that life on earth is temporary, but the purpose God assigns is eternal. Families endure unimaginable pain, yet within that pain can come a profound witness of trust in God's sovereignty. Even when the enemy uses mysterious circumstances to attack, God can bring beauty from ashes. The mystery surrounding these deaths challenges us to lean not on our own understanding, but to cling to the promises of God. It calls the church to be a refuge, a place of comfort, strength, and unshakable hope for those who grieve. This reality also serves as a call to vigilance and spiritual warfare. The church and believers must rise to protect the vulnerable, to pray without ceasing, and to stand in the gap for the children marked by God. Mysterious deaths are a stark reminder that the enemy prowls, seeking to destroy, but they are also a summons for the people of God to mobilize in faith and intercession. The chosen may face darkness, but they walk under the shadow of the Almighty. Ultimately, mysterious death is not the end of the story. It is a chapter in a larger narrative where God's purpose continues to unfold. Those who hear the testimony of the chosen child's life and passing invited to carry the torch forward, to fight for the next generation, and to believe that no death can silence a voice ordained by heaven. When a child who is declared, "I was chosen," dies mysteriously, the ripple effects are felt far beyond the immediate family. The impact on loved ones and communities is profound, shaking foundations of faith and raising difficult questions. Grief floods hearts, bringing sorrow that words often fail to capture. Families wrestle with confusion, pain, and sometimes even anger. They struggle to reconcile the hope and promise they believed in with the reality of loss that feels so unfair and inexplicable. This grief is a heavy burden, not just because of the loss itself, but because it challenges the very belief in God's goodness and protection. Communities, too, feel the shock and the void left behind. The chosen child may have been a beacon of hope, a symbol of divine purpose. Their death leaves questions about safety, destiny, and why God allows such tragedy. Some may begin to doubt, others may withdraw, and many wrestle with fears about what this means for the generation to come. It can cause division or discourage those who are called to lead and protect the vulnerable, yet it also can spark a deeper hunger for answers, a desperate search for meaning, and a renewed urgency to stand firm in faith. Its impact calls for compassionate responses, grounded in truth and grace. Families need a community that listens without judgment, that offers prayer without empty words, and that holds space for pain without rushing to fix it. The church is called to be a refuge where questions are welcomed and faith is nurtured, even when it feels fragile. Leaders and believers must walk alongside those who grieve, offering hope rooted in the promises of God rather than cliches. In the midst of sorrow, the mysterious death of a chosen child becomes a call to greater faith and resilience. It challenges communities to confront the realities of spiritual warfare openly and honestly. It urges the church to awaken to its responsibility to protect, pray, and proclaim truth boldly. The impact of such a loss reminds us that while life is fragile, God's purpose is steadfast and eternal. It also reminds us that we are not alone in our suffering. Just as families and communities feel the pain, they also experience the comfort of God's presence. Even when answers are scarce, the assurance that God holds every chosen child in His hands offers a hope that transcends understanding. This hope sustains those who remain, empowering them to carry on the legacy and calling of the one who was chosen. Ultimately, the impact of such a tragedy moves beyond sorrow and calls us to action, to protect, to pray, and to believe that the chosen ones, though attacked and lost, are never forsaken. Their lives and deaths serve as a solemn reminder of the spiritual battle and the urgent need for the church and believers to rise up in faith and love. Hope beyond tragedy is a light that shines brightest in the darkest moments. When a child who proclaimed, "I was chosen," dies mysteriously, it feels as though the world has been shattered and faith hangs by a thread. Yet even in the midst of such heartbreaking loss, there is a divine hope that refuses to be extinguished. This hope is not a vague wish or empty optimism. It is a confident trust in God's sovereignty, knowing that He is still in control, that His purposes cannot be undone by death or mystery. It is the hope that says even when we do not understand, we can rest in the assurance that God is working all things for good. Tragedy often challenges our understanding of God's goodness and justice. It pushes us to the edge of despair and can cause doubt to creep in. But hope beyond tragedy calls us back to the promises of Scripture, where God promises never to leave us or forsake us. It reminds us that God's love is deeper than our pain and that His plan extends beyond our earthly perspective. The child who was chosen and taken too soon is not forgotten in God's eyes. Their life has eternal significance and their story continues in the heavenly realm. This hope also comforts grieving families, giving them a place to cling when the waves of sorrow threaten to overwhelm. It is a hope that invites the community of believers to come alongside with prayer, support, and unwavering faith. It reassures us that death, while painful, is not the final word. In the grand tapestry of God's kingdom, even mysterious deaths have a purpose, often hidden from our sight, but known fully by God. Moreover, hope beyond tragedy inspires the church to rise with renewed strength. It calls us to fight, not just with sorrow, but with faith and courage, to stand boldly against the forces that seek to destroy the chosen, and to intercede fervently for those still walking the path of their calling. This hope is a beacon for the future, a promise that the enemy's attacks will not prevail against God's children. In the face of loss, hope beyond tragedy is the anchor for the soul. It is a reminder that God's grace is sufficient, His mercy new every morning, and His love everlasting. It invites us to trust Him, even when the answers seem hidden and the pain too deep. This hope empowers us to keep believing, keep praying, and keep fighting for every chosen life, knowing that the best is yet to come. The call to protect and intercede for chosen children is not just a responsibility, it is a sacred mandate given to every believer who understands the gravity of spiritual warfare. When a child declares, "I was chosen," it sends a ripple through the unseen realms, and with that declaration comes both blessing and battle. The enemy knows that these children carry a destiny that threatens darkness, so he launches attacks to hinder, confuse, and destroy. This is why the church and every follower of God must rise up as guardians and warriors in the Spirit. Protection begins with awareness. We cannot protect what we do not recognize as valuable or understand as vulnerable. It requires the church to open its eyes to the spiritual realities facing children today. These are not ordinary battles, but deep, unseen struggles that need fervent prayer, wise guidance, and spiritual discernment. We are called to put on the full armor of God, to stand in the gap, and to be the shield that guards the future. Our prayers are powerful weapons. Our faith is a fortress. Intercession is the heart of this protection. When chosen children face attacks that are beyond human strength, it is the prayers of the saints that bring breakthrough. Intercessors stand in the spiritual breach, pleading for mercy, breakthrough, and deliverance. Through prayer, the chains of darkness can be broken, confusion can be replaced with clarity, and fear can be overcome by peace. The chosen need the prayers of a committed church that refuses to be silent or passive. The call to protect also extends to nurturing these children in love, truth, and community. It means creating safe environments where they can grow in identity and purpose without fear. It means teaching them to recognize the enemy's tactics and to stand firm in the promises of God. It means walking with families, supporting them, and equipping them to fight the spiritual battles at home. Every believer has a role in this divine assignment. Whether through prayer, mentorship, teaching, or simply standing as a faithful witness, we are called to be part of the protective covering over chosen children. This call is urgent because the enemy is relentless, but it is also filled with hope because God's power is greater than any darkness. In answering this call, the church becomes a fortress for the chosen, a place where their identity is confirmed, their purpose strengthened, and their destiny secured. To protect and intercede for chosen children is to participate in God's redemptive plan, ensuring that no weapon formed against them will prosper. It is a holy charge to stand strong, pray bold, and love fiercely for the future God has entrusted to the next generation. As we come to the close of this message, let us remember that the life of a chosen child is never ordinary or unnoticed. Even in the face of mystery, loss, and spiritual battle, God's purpose stands firm and His love remains unshaken. The enemy may try to hunt, confuse, or silence those who are chosen, but they cannot stop what God has ordained. We are called to stand as protectors, intercessors, and believers who walk in faith and courage. Every chosen child carries a light that darkness cannot extinguish, and every life, no matter how brief, leaves an eternal mark on this world. May you find strength in this truth and be encouraged to rise up with boldness for the sake of the children who have been set apart. Let us not be silent or passive, but active in prayer, love, and spiritual vigilance. The battle is real, but the victory belongs to those who trust in the Lord with all their heart. Thank you for opening your heart and mind to this important message. May God bless you and guide you as you stand firm in faith and protect the future. Good luck on your journey, and may His peace and power be with you always.